Let's take a look now in a little more detail at some of the ways that we can marry the legacy character version with newer functionality that's provided in the graphical Barista add-on version. I'm going to focus on the accounts receivable module for these demonstrations. What we can do first is let's just walk through a familiar process. We'll go into simple invoice entry and we'll begin by setting up a new invoice. Notice that the date here is automatically set to my system date, so that is passed through to the character screens. So a very simple invoice entry, and then as I use the F4 key, the task is dismissed and the Barista menu is in control. Next step is to move on to invoice printing. This brings up the character screen, but notice that we've hooked up some new functionality. So instead of the old character version of the invoices, what we now have is the graphical Jasper version of the invoices, in which we get both a print and a master copy. We have 4 pages here in our print copy, and we can just click through these quickly to see there are other invoices out here besides the one that you just saw me enter. So a few simple invoices out here in the print copy, and the print copy would be intended for those who want an actual hard copy. There may be some customers for whom you are going to do electronic copies only, and in that case they may not show in the print copy, but they will all be here in the master copy. So this is the, as the name implies, the copy of every invoice that we created in this run, whereas the print copy may have fewer in it. This is running against the version 6 database, but I'm being presented with a current Jasper version, and that means I have all of the archiving, emailing, faxing capability that's built into the current version without needing any third-party tools. We go on to the simple invoice register. This takes us back to a character style report. I won't update it at this time, and once again our task is dismissed. Now, for convenience, if I want to take a look at that report, we have up here a shortcut directly into the F1 reports function. So I can look down through these, and sure enough, I can print that to screen, I can print it to the file, same as always. Here is the invoice register that we just generated. So a real combination of character and graphical. Cash receipts entry is a character form, but notice here we've hooked up another graphical piece, and that is when I get to the customer ID, F3 for lookup, rather than launching the traditional lookup, ties me into a graphical query grid. So I can see all the customers in the demo database that I'm using, scroll through them, export them, sort, search, filter, including full text search if applicable. All of the functionality that would be present in the new version is available by virtue of hooking into a modern lookup from the character screen. Now the cash receipts register, unlike the simple invoice register, has been converted to a doc-out register, what we call doc-out in Barista, the document output system. So I have my familiar character screen for launching, but once I do, rather than getting the character version of the register, I get a register up on the screen in the viewer. And that gives me searching capability, obviously zoom in capability, zoom out, save it. I can get a hard copy, email, fax, all of that functionality is here. I'll dismiss this one, and then the GL recap will be generated in the same fashion. And once I exit this one, I'm back to my familiar prompt for whether or not I want to update that register. There are several other reports, we can take a look at a couple of them here, that have been converted to doc-out as well. Here I'm just running through a very quick aging report. This one has also been converted and is presented in doc-out fashion. And there are a few others in accounts receivable as well. The monthly cash receipts journal has been converted to run as a doc-out style document, as has the customer ranking report, and there are some in the order processing module as well. our sales register, our invoice edit report. We can even run sales analysis reports and see them in a dockout form rather than in the character version. So here's a sales analysis by customer, generates an 11-page report in a dockout fashion. So dockout is a great way to be able to provide some newer functionality to the legacy app, even in those cases where they still want to run the character screens. Another place that demonstrates where you can marry the old and the new is here in accounts receivable. Let's take a look at customer maintenance. The familiar character screen. You can see name and address and so on. Profile maintenance. If I go to the aging and sales summary inquiry, I see the character information I'm accustomed to, but we've also added in this embedded widget that shows in a graphical fashion the aged balance for this particular customer. Let's move through a couple of the other modules and show you where we've hooked in some modern functionality. The customer statements have also been converted to use new Jasper versions for the statements, and that happens in a couple of different ways. We use the character screen to collect the user inputs. So we have an option here. We can do an on-demand or just a single invoice. And when we use that option, we'll get just the single statement brought up in Jasper format for the customer we specified. Or if we're running batch mode statements, we'll just run through and do the batch mode. We will see the current version that makes use of both the master and the print copy, and again hooks into the report control system. One other place of interest in accounts receivable is the distribution codes. Now, most of these that I have been launching, most of these tasks I've been launching, as you see, are launching the traditional character screens. But let's take a look at what we've done with distribution codes. In this case, we've taken a page out of the Barista add-on playbook. That is, we've taken the graphical form and wedded it to the version 6 data. So in this case, if we bring up this distribution code, we are pulling the distribution code record, that is the record in accounts receivable that contains the code and the description and the appropriate general ledger accounts. That comes from the version 6 distribution codes table. These general ledger accounts themselves, however, are validated against the Barista add-on, that is the current add-on general ledger database. Remember, we said that in this particular hybrid project, accounts payable and general ledger were running in the current version of add-on, whereas the others were character. So this form is truly a hybrid. The distribution record itself is in the version 6 accounts receivable, but it's looking to the Barista add-on general ledger to validate these accounts, and that gives me this hyperlink functionality, as well, of course, as the ability to do lookups to find a particular general ledger account. So the general ledger that we're seeing here, again, is the Barista add-on general ledger. Invoice entry is a process that's quite often customized, and as such, in this project, we've left it in its character state. So let's bring up an order that we can invoice, and then we'll walk through some of the other processes. We're going to do a lookup here and see if we can find an order that is ready to invoice. Let's go to this last one. Here's the order. All this information is correct. We're ready to invoice this. And we'll put a little bit of freight on there, and we're good to go. So in character mode, we've set up an invoice. Let's take a look now at our invoice edit report. This is another report that has been converted to use dockout. So we see all of the information here on screen in the viewer, and as mentioned, we have all of the options then for saving, emailing, faxing, what have you. We can do a quick one-click save. Close out of our invoice edit report. If we move along now to invoice printing, this is another place where we have incorporated the new Jasper version of the invoices. So we use the character screen to kick off the process, and then we'll be presented with the new Jasper versions of the OP invoice. And likewise, the sales register has been converted to the dockout. So we'll get the main register initially, And here we can see familiar warning if we're missing some serial numbers, which would mean it's not going to let our update continue. We close out of the first part. Then we'll get the cash sale report if there are any cash sales involved. And last but not least, we would get the summary by salesperson.
We thank you for your time. Please contact your reseller for information on this exciting upgrade path.